We welcome to our microphones a proud graduate of Erasmus High School, Mr. Joseph Barbera. I thank you very much for coming. It's an honor having you here.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for inviting me, and Brooklyn is a great place.
Not bad to be from.
I'll tell you.
What, were you a kid, like the kind of kid we would look at in class, a kid who drew well?
Well, I guess like some kids, I used to like to draw. I used to copy. I used to copy a lot. And what happened, which is coincidental, it seems like that the world goes round. A nun at a Catholic school in Brooklyn discovered that I could draw that way. So she asked me to copy some pictures from, this particular one happened to be Jesus going into Jerusalem at Easter Sunday. So I was up at the blackboard. I must have been about 8 or 9 years old with chalk, and I'm drawing, and I'm copying, and I'm copying. And chalk dust is gathering on my head and my ears. And I thought of, years later, I read about Michelangelo lying on his back for 4 years painting the Sistine Chapel, And little did I know that years and years and years later, I would get into a Bible series.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. Why did you choose cartooning, and especially animated cartooning, as a career?
Well, a series of coincidences. For instance, when I saw my first cartoon, which was at the Roxy Theater in New York,
50th
and it was a Walt Disney cartoon called The Skeleton Dance, I wrote my one and only fan letter to Walt Disney and said I had just gone crazy about the whole thing. I drew a sketch of Mickey Mouse. I sent it to Hollywood, and by gosh, I got a letter back from Walt Disney with the famous signature. He was just starting. He said, I'm coming to New York, and I will call you. Well, let me say, fortunately, he didn't call me.
Fortunately?
I have. It's
Why?
Fortunate because if he had, and he said, come to work, I would have gone to California, I would have entered the Citadel, and I would have vanished.
But how then did you make the move out there?
Well, I went and worked at the job I hated, at a bank. I ended up at Irving Trust Company, 1 Wall Street, across the street from the Trinity Churchyard. I can't add. I still can't add. And I sat there, so maybe my outlet was that I began drawing cartoons at night. And if you're ambitious, I would be sketching away on these single block cartoons until 4 and 5 in the morning. And then I'd go into the bank, and then I'd get on the subway and rush up to Grand Central, and I'd go up to Red Book, I'd go to Collier's, I'd go I'd mail to the New Yorker, and I would get rejected steadily. Then one day, I got a check in the mail. I had sold a cartoon, and that's how I started.
How many years were you at MGM?
20.
Is that where you met Bill Hanna?
Bill Hanna, right.
Did they team you together at MGM?
Not exactly. He got moved out of a job, and he got moved into the same room as I was in. The studio.
You were both artists?
No, Bill doesn't draw. Particularly, he times. He's like the technician, and I do a lot of the creative part of it and the drawing.
And you came up with Tom and Jerry there?
Yes. And the studio was about to close. We were going out of business again. We were going to be out of work. So Bill and I did a cartoon by ourselves. I drew them all, and we wrote the story. He put it on film, and it turned out to be very funny. It was a cat and mouse cartoon. Okay? Now, that was the launching of Tom and Jerry.
Do you know, when we would go to movies as kids, we would keep our fingers crossed that it was a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Right.
Because MGM with Tom and Jerry, those were great cartoons. They were ahead of their time.
Way
hip.
ahead.
They were hip guys.
And still running today.
Still running.
Still running all over. Making a fortune for MGM.
You were fired by MGM.
Yes.
Both of you.
Well, let's put it this way. MGM was in great financial problems at the time, so they found out that they could reissue our old cartoons and make almost as much money as making new ones. So the brilliant decision was close this wonderful studio and just release the old cartoons.
What were they paying you?
At that time, I was getting paid a tremendous salary. I had gone from $87 a week. I had grown to $700 a week.
You're listening to The Larry King Show, live from the nation's capital. Here again, Larry King.
Throughout the evening tonight, we're going to be featuring the music of Hanna-Barbera, and of course the famed Flintstone theme. So you two guys are out of work at MGM. You go into business for yourself.
Right, and
did Huckleberry Hound come right out of that? What was the first thing that came out of that?
Well, it was called Rough and Ready. That was a series, and we were averaging about $45,000 a 5-minute Tom and Jerry. The best we could do in television was $2,700 for 5 minutes. And we had to accommodate to that.
So you came up with Huckleberry Hound,
Right.
Yogi Bear.
Yogi Bear.
Did you need Yogi Bear's permission?
No. I heard that at one time he was thinking about complaining about the whole thing, and that he realized his name's really, I believe, is Lawrence.
Yeah.
And not
Yogi Bear was so hip. Who did that voice?
That's Dawes Butler.
Boy,
Who
I know
was
Dawes.
Wonderful. He is wonderful.
Terrific.
Yeah,
And-
smarter than the average bear, you know.
Smarter than the average bear.
Yeah,
And then the Flintstones, the Jetsons,
yeah.
Scooby-Doo, 16 years.
Right, Top Cat.
Top Cat,
He's coming back.
the Smurfs.
Yes, Johnny Quest.
You did Johnny Quest.
That's coming back.
You did feature films, Charlotte's Web, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Heidi's Song.
Right. Did The Gathering. But that's a live 2-hour. We won the Emmy with that. Beat all the studio.
What was the Flintstones the biggest hit? The Flintstones
Yeah.
went in prime time.
Prime time took me 8 weeks to sell it. I was in New York. I watched the snow leave the park. I watched the ice melt. I watched the swans come back. I sat through a whole St. Patrick's Day parade. Went everywhere. Everybody loved it. And the very last day, on a Friday, Leonard Goldenson of ABC and Danny Melnick and Tom Moore walked in. They bought the show in 15 minutes.
That was a honeymoon at takeoff, was it not?
They say so. Really, I think that if there's a hit show on the air, like Cosby is on the big hit show right now, everyone thinks that way. Honeymoon was a big hit, and all your material thinks that way. The advantage we had was that we created the Polar Rock camera, the Stoneway piano. We guested Ann Margrock. We had Cary Grant. We had all these people. That was the window dressing.
At the top, you had how many shows going on TV at the same time?
Oh, in 1 week we would have maybe 5 half-hour shows going. This fall we'll have 8 brand new half hours going every week.
You sold to Taft, right?
In '66, that's
But
right.
you remain the principals in the company.
Yeah. Wonderful group of people. They've allowed us to operate.
Now, frankly, Joe, I mean, you look extraordinarily well. You're not young, but you look in your mid-50s. You're older than that, but
That's right.
why don't you retire?
Why don't I retire? I can't think of a good reason to do
I mean,
it.
when you sell out to Taft, they must have paid you a pretty good break. So you
Yeah.
don't need the money.
No, I would say not at this point, but I tell you, there's too many laughs to be gotten out there yet, and too much entertaining to do, and too many directions, and too many goals to keep trying, and I think that keeps you going.
You're listening to The Larry King Show.
Yogi Bear is smarter than the average bear. Yogi Bear is always in the ranger's hair.
Live from the nation's capital. Here again, Larry King.
You know, a man loves his work when he's reached the pinnacle of success and he still sings along with the Yogi Bear theme. Whole bunch of new things coming. Top Cat is coming this fall. HANNA-BARBERA's all over the world. Studios everywhere. Over 3,000 employees. And now, tell me about this greatest adventure.
Well, I tell you, the greatest adventure took 17 years to get off the ground. And it happens to be just telling the stories of the Bible stories.
With
And
cartoon characters?
Yeah, and you may say, why the Bible stories? Well, first of all, in my business, a good story. Without a good story, you don't have anything. So you keep looking at these incredible stories. I mean, look at, I'm not preaching, I'm not trying to crusade, but when a little guy like Dave goes up against this monster like Goliath and beats him, I mean, that's a terrific story.
So you do it all in animation.
We do it in what I call illustrative animation. I mean, these are real drawn figures with great research on costumes. And you know, the Sphinx was new in that time, so we have to show that the way it was. And the architecture and the pharaoh and their costumes, plus the underlying moral values. And then we have contemporary kids involved in it, which gives us another kind of a way of introducing
Contemporary
this.
kids, what? Is sort of walking through?
No, the way it works is that we have young archaeologists who get involved in a sand whirlpool, drop into a temple that's never been seen before, and go through these portals, and going through them you pass through time. So we arrive at the beginning of each story.
Old and New Testament?
Yes, the New Testament we haven't done yet, but that's our next batch of 6.
Now, you're selling this through home...
Well, it's order. For instance, it's an 800 number. That's 800, and it's 453-4908.
And how much are they?
I think $19.95 is where
Per
we
cassette?
are. Per cassette.
How many are done?
We have 6.
So you can order 6 right now, the Old Testament.
Oh, yeah, and that's what a lot of people are doing.
The
And
VHS or beta?
It's each one, yeah, either one of them.
So therefore, it's $19.95. If you want to order the whole 6, it would be $120.
Yeah, yeah.
But 6 are done, and you call 1-800-453-4908. We'll be repeating that number. Why not in stores?
Well, see, it's so new for anybody, including us, that we're feeling our way through, and what we don't want to do is just dump them into a video store, and there's so many of them there. Either we set it up right, or we're not going to do it that way. So the product is so well done, and we've put so much time into it, and we're financing the whole bit at this point. So we want to be very careful how we market this.
How long it take to make?
Oof. Oh, I would say almost a year. And then I redid almost all of them because I wasn't satisfied with the way they looked. And when you do Bible stories, and when I say Bible, I want to also add that they're great entertainment. They are great entertainment. I had people call and say, well, aren't they violent? Well, look, when he hits David with a stone, that's a stone. I can't use a grape, you know. And when
You begin with Genesis?
Or
you go back to the stories first?
No, we do the story. And we try to make the people natural. I mean, we're not walking with great dignity and slowly. You know, for instance, like Moses says at the end of the Moses, when he says, it wasn't the Pharaoh that was our problem. It was his lack of faith of my own people. So there's a subliminal moral structure that we try to put into these things, and it's working. I'll tell you one of the nicest things that's coming out of this whole project. I've gotten letters, and I mean many letters, where they say, thank you so much for your dedication to doing these Bible stories. My son, Joshua, has played them many, many times, and then he turns and asks me questions. Now, if it wasn't that we had the cassettes, we wouldn't be sitting there discussing the Bible and the stories and its ramifications if it wasn't for your cassettes, so they're thanking me.
Is it more difficult to draw human characters than
yes.
animals doing funny things?
Much more difficult and much more expensive. And we brought in a certain kind of artist to do this. We brought in from all over the country.
Because it has to be very realistic. I mean, the animal doesn't
yeah.
have to do the realistic.
Well, yes, we do. For instance, Noah's Ark. We did Noah's Ark. And I tell you, we've had a nice reception when people are running it, including a mix of kids. When they get through, they turn around and say, let's play it again. And then I added some touches in it, some little touches. For instance, I said, look, this thing is over 700 feet long. It's enormous. I said, it had to leak. I mean, no one ever discusses that, but what did they do when it leaked? So I have some scenes showing how they would try to stop it. I have some animals involved in it. Then I also said it must pitch. It's so huge, it must pitch in the storm from left to right. And when it pitches from left to right, an elephant has to slide across the floor, you know. For instance, I was in a stateroom one time when a trunk did that to me. So I knew it had to happen.
Yeah. Boy, it must be exciting. How's it doing? Well, it's just out, right?
Well, the reaction has been 100% positive. I hope it continues.
Well, wouldn't you think you're going to start getting into department stores and the like where they feature it? I mean, you can't just limit it to call-in.
I'm meeting Friday discussing distribution all over the world, and we're also going to be going into the bookstores, and we're going to try to do it very special.
All right, this is Hanna-Barbera's The Greatest Adventure, stories from the Bible. 6 cassettes are done, the Old Testament. And if you want further information, dial 1-800, is that any time of day?
That's right. 1-800-453-4908.
And what's coming to television this fall?
Well, let me just add one thing. We also had books.
Oh, accompanying books?
That go with the sets.
Okay.
I mean, they're extra, but they're beautifully done. And we use the illustrations from the picture.
Top Cat's coming back this fall?
Top Cat is coming back this fall, and he is... Top Cat in Beverly Hills is about the only clue I'll give you right there.
Arnold Stang, the voice?
Yes, Arnold Stang would be back if it works out, and also a whole new Flintstone approach, the Flintstone Kids.
The Flintstone Kids?
The Flintstone Kids is coming on this fall on ABC for an hour, and that shows Fred, Barney, Wilma, and Betty when they were kids. Now, I will promise you, they're the most delightful kids you've ever seen.
Do you still draw?
Oh, sure. I draw because it's the quickest way to show somebody what I want. And I don't, it's an old expression. One piece of artwork is worth 1,000 words.
Are you always looking for talented young artists?
Yes. We have classes. We interview everybody. We talk to everybody. And, I've been through this, so I never discourage anybody.
Yeah, that's right. This is a very special craft, though.
It really
Animation.
is. It's the last of the great handcrafts.
Our guest is Joseph Barbera, President, Hanna-Barbera Productions, the world's leading producer of animated entertainment. 7 Academy Awards, 7 Emmys. Tom and Jerry, Huckleberry Hound, Yogi Bear, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, the Smurfs, Scooby-Doo, Charlotte's Web, Heidi's Song, Top Cat, and now Hanna-Barbera's The Greatest Adventure, Stories from the Bible. That available right now through home receipt only by direct mail, and you contact them at 1-800-453-4908. They're also accompanying books. We'll get to as many calls as we can for Joseph Barbera, and as we did with Little Richard, please make the questions or comments as brief as possible. We'll ask Mr. Barbera to do the same with the response. We go to Superior, Wisconsin. Hello.
Hi, good evening, Mr. King and Mr. Barbera. It's
Hi.
a pleasure to talk to you. I have 2 questions for Mr. Barbera, then I'll go back and listen for the answers. I'd like to know what it was like when you started out in animation in New York at the Van Buren Studios and at Paul Terry's Terry Toons. And I'd like to know if you could make some comments on the creative contributions made to your own cartoons over the years by 2 associates of yours, Mr. Doug Wildey, especially with Johnny Quest.
Okay, I'm going to have trouble dealing with all those because of the time factor. What
Right.
about the Van Buren Studios?
Well, that's quite a question. That was my first job, Van Buren, and Burt Gillette was there at the time. So that was where I would launch
Were
the
they
whole
doing good
business.
work?
Oh yeah, they
Now,
were
I remember
trying.
Paul Terry cartoons.
And then my second job was Paul Terry.
And the gentleman he mentioned that worked for you, these are talented
Doug
people.
Wildey,
Yeah.
he's still working on a Johnny Quest series right now, which will debut again this fall.
Omaha, Nebraska for Joseph Barbera. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Barbera, I want to tell you that growing up, and I still get a kick out of shows like the Flintstones. Where did the idea for the Great Gazoo on the Flintstones come from? He was one of the classic cartoon characters.
Gosh, what a memory. Yes. Well, that was one of the first times you introduced an alien from outer space, and we brought him into the Flintstone series, so thank you for remembering.
How many Flintstones were done?
6 years worth at about 30 a year, about 180.
With Joseph Barbera, the 800 number again for this wonderful series called Hanna-Barbera's The Greatest Adventure. They'll give you all the information on ordering. 1-800-453-4908. Dayton, Ohio. Hello.
Yeah, Mr. Barbera, your theme park here that Taft runs, Kings Island, just out of Cincinnati, they use the characters as an integral part, and it's always fun to go down there and see that.
Right.
The question I wanted to ask, I'm a disc jockey, and a couple of days ago I ran across an old album with sound effects from the cartoons that was printed maybe 22 years ago, I think it was.
I'll be done.
Any chance of getting a re-release of that, or can you steer me in the right direction?
I wouldn't know where to get it, but I wish I had a copy of it.
They're the greatest sound effects in the world.
Well, I'm going to try to get them.
What is the sound effects was super in those
Oh,
cartoons.
yes,
Yeah.
they were wonderful. And if you want to, send it, and we'll duplicate it for you and send it back to you.
That'd be wonderful.
Why don't you do that? Just send it out to Hanna-Barbera in
Hollywood,
California.
That's right.
Scratchy.
They're nice people. We go to San Jose, California for Joseph Barbera. Hello.
Hi, Mr. Barbera. I've been a fan of yours 27 years.
God bless you.
It's great.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions for you. I'm wondering, how do you make a cartoon like to make a move from picture to picture? And also, do you think the cartoons are too violent, like Bugs Bunny and the Flintstones, say, like a big boulder coming down? And what is in a personal...
Oh, I know. We're not going to have 3 questions. Making the cartoon movement to movement. Is that
Well-
all different frame for each movement?
Yes. Listen, you can do it yourself. Take your hand and start at the table and raise it up to an upright position. And you can just, if you do it slowly, you can watch the drawings practically. I mean, you can actually do that yourself. It's really life.
What about violence in cartoons?
Well, I wish people would differentiate between slapstick and violence.
Big difference.
And slapstick is funny, and that's the heart of comedy. And if you think about it, like you can't throw a pie anymore.
You never did violence.
Never.
With Joseph Barbera, Greensboro, North Carolina. Hello.
Hello. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about a man who's worked for you, Alex Toth.
Oh, yeah. Alex is a good friend of mine. He just lost his wife a little while ago. I just got a note from him. A super talent.
I knew he did a lot of production work for you.
Yes, he did Space Ghost, Herculoids, a lot of Johnny Quest. Genius.
Well, he's a friend of mine. Hopefully you can talk him into doing some more work for you because he's great.
I intend to call him when I go back.
Thank you. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Hello.
Well, I sure do love this show, Larry. I'm wondering 2 questions, Barbera.
Yes, sir.
First off, I've noticed that the music for your cartoons is almost as important as the cartoons. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Scott Bradley, who I believe did a lot of your Tom and Jerry cartoons, and Hoyt Curtin.
Well, Scott Bradley did all of our Tom and Jerry cartoons. I don't believe he's with us anymore, but he was a little genius. At this point, Hoyt Curtin is doing all of our music, plus he brings in other arrangers, and he is a genius.
Was he right? Is the music as important as the picture?
We must have that kind of music, believe me.
Why?
It makes or breaks it. It gives you mood, gives you excitement.
It's as key to a cartoon as it is to a feature film.
Absolutely.
In other words, it don't look the same with no music.
Oh, no, you got to have the music.
Arlington, Virginia, hello.
Yeah, I've enjoyed your work for a real long time. Like to have a question for you, though. For a person that's looking to land a job in cartoon voice work, is it necessity to live or be based out of California or what?
Not for openers. If you want to do that, if you can get anything or any of the gimmicks or tricks you have and put on a piece of tape, send it to our studio.
Just
Hollywood,
think of
California.
voices, you mean?
Just the voices. Do any tricks you want, because we never know where the new star's coming from.
Mel Blanc still work for you, too?
Oh, he still does, indeed.
Dayton, Ohio, hello.
I'd like to comment on this cartoonist.
Yes.
Well, I think a cartoonist is not all the way a good person. Not like that.
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. This is the Larry King Show with Joseph Barbera, Rochester, New York. Hello.
Hello. Just one question, Mr. Barbera.
Yes, ma'am.
With the new technique of computer coloring, any chance of you going back and coloring some of the great old black and white cartoons like Johnny Quest and the Jetsons that were...
Oh, no, let me be honest. We never did anything in black and white. You may have seen a print, but Jetsons were made in color and Johnny Quest was made in color.
Now, you use computers how?
We use computer just to do what we call the heavy work. We put color on and we put lines on, we put on the lines, but computer will never replace good animation. They just can't do it.
A computer is a time saver?
That's about it.
Our guest is Joseph Barbera, president of HANNA-BARBERA. That's a division of Taft Entertainment. His partner, of course, William Hanna, both fired from MGM after all the Tom and Jerry series.
Yeah, that's right.
And, boy, they didn't do too much after that. Just sort of drifting. We found Joe outside the studios, called him up because we like to take care of those people having problems.
Thank you, Larry.
If you, anytime we can help.
We've got a gorilla for sale. A yellow gorilla for sale.
You're listening to The Larry King Show, live from the nation's capital. Here again, Larry King.
We're going to feature this music throughout the night in honor of Mr. Barbera's appearance. Baltimore, hello.
Hello?
Yes.
That was question for Joseph Barbera.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I have seen just about every episode of the Flintstones that has ever been, including the Flintstones movies, right? I want to know, do y'all ever think that y'all will ever come out with any new episodes of the Flintstones like you doing the Jetsons?
Yes.
You're going to have what, Son of...
Yes, this fall we'll have the Flintstone Kids. There's going to be a whole new series where we show we show Fred and Barney and Wilma and Betty as kids. And I tell you, you're going to really enjoy them.
Sarasota, Florida, for Joseph Barbera. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I'm wondering, cartoons played a very big development in my childhood. I'm 22 years old, and although I am partial to Warner Brothers, I was wondering if Mr. Barbera might comment on how cartoons today especially are basically advertisements for toys.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, that's been a criticism of them.
Well, it's if I can answer that, let's look at it this way. When we do a series like the Flintstones, and we did Huckleberry Hound, we did Yogi Bear, and they were successful, toy manufacturers came to us and said, can we use your characters as toys? And we were happy to do it because, frankly, we're usually in a deficit position. So it helps us finance the cartoons. And
but now we have a toy and then a cartoon does the toy, right?
So we're saying chicken or egg, right?
Right.
Now here comes a toy. It's an attractive toy, and they come to us and say, can we do a series out of this? So if it works and it looks all right, we do it. However, that doesn't mean that the toy is going to sell. That you have to know. If the kids don't like the toy, they don't like the show, you see?
Washington, D.C., hello.
Hello, this is a great show. I'd like to know if this Barbera with Dudley Do-Right and Bullwinkle and all that.
Well, that's another studio, and they're still running, and they were very, very brilliant cartoons.
Thank you. San Francisco, hello.
Hello, Larry. I'd like to ask your guest, question about Mother Jugson's Speed starring Raquel Welch and Bill Cosby. How did he end up being executive producer, and did he finance it?
Well, thank you for asking us. I just got a call the other day from Tom Mankiewicz, the writer, who said that he asked Fox why there wasn't a cassette of that out. He said because the star of that happens to be Bill Cosby, who was now the hottest thing on television, and they had forgotten to put it out. I just happened to get the idea, and I managed to put it into work and get it on the air, and it's a darn good picture, and thank you for bringing it up.
The Gathering was probably your proudest achievement, though, right?
That was a super piece of work.
Oh, great people in that.
Oh, God.
Palo Alto for Joseph Barbera. Hello.
Yes, Mr. King, you're a breath of intellectual fresh air.
Thank you.
On the airways. Yes, Mr. Barbera, I have two quick questions, and I'll take the answers off the air. How did you come up with the term Mooney Moolah in Rough and Ready, and what were the decisions you had to make to do your two-dimensional versus the Walt Disney three-dimensional type of cartooning? Thank you.
Give you that very quickly. Mooney Moolah is aluminum spelled backwards. Okay? And as far as the two-dimension or three-dimension, it's a matter of dollars. If you haven't got the money, you have to produce for the money. And I just give you the example. From $45,000 for 5 minutes to $2,700 for 5 minutes.
Charlotte's Web did well, didn't it?
Very well.
Yeah, it was a terrific movie. Griffith, Indiana. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Barbera, I want to thank you as a past Grand Knight of the local Knights of Columbus Council for the term Grand Poobah.
Oh, God.
Knight does.
Yeah.
Poobah, they get the idea right away.
Yeah.
My question is about the voices and the great character actors and actresses that you've had. And
yeah.
Discuss those, especially the lady who did the first Betty Rubble, please, and I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Oh, gosh, that was a fabulous actress that worked with George Burns a lot. Her name escapes me right now. She's passed away, but she was a genius.
Wait a minute. Neil Leibowitz knows. B. Benaderet.
That's B. Benaderet.
B. Benaderet.
That's the lady. Wonderful, wonderful talent.
Neil Leibowitz. He's a kid. He knows this.
Thank you.
We go to Detroit, Michigan. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Barbera.
Yes, sir.
When I was growing up, I had the same artistic flair that you had in cartooning, but now I have a degree in architecture. But it seems that it's hard for me to find a job. I was wondering, how could you suggest on getting me some help? And I'm going to hang up.
All you have to do is send your samples to the studio, and we'll evaluate them truly and honestly.
By the way, you remember when you were sending in stuff, so
I was rejected steadily for over 2 years.
So Hanna-Barbera looks at stuff that comes in.
We sure do.
You're looking for talent.
Oh, all
it's
the time?
It's stupid not to look for talent.
Oh, anybody.
Any
everyone.
company that says we're not looking for talent at the moment, that's
ridiculous.
That's self-defeating.
Real stupid, right?
Pittsburgh, California. Hello.
Hi, Larry.
Hi.
Welcome from the land of maybe the pennant giants and the 49ers.
Maybe you have a question.
Yes, I do. I had a problem when I was a kid with slapstick cartoons. I used to see them in the movies, when we went out to see the Cisco Kid and Lash LaRue and Tom Mix and stuff. But the slapstick didn't seem to bother us that much as did the westerns,
What's the question?
Well, the question was, I think nowadays, cartoons are a little bit more violent.
Are they? What is Saturday morning like?
Well, you may not be looking at Saturday morning. You may be looking at syndication, which is a whole other market. You see, syndication doesn't have the same rules.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a Transformer or you're looking at a Master of the Universe, that's a whole other bit.
Nobody's perfect. What was a Hanna-Barbera bomb?
I can't think of it.
Was there a series that you did for television that didn't work that you thought would be a hit?
Well, let's put it this way. That when we did the Jetsons, which we tested the highest testing we ever did, but what you can't control is where do they put it. So they put us between Dennis the Menace and Walt Disney at the time. So that means you all share the same rating, and it doesn't become a hit.
I see.
We don't have a bomb, but they're all playing somewhere.
The movies did all well, too.
All of them, yeah.
You're listening to The Larry King Show. Live from the nation's capital. Here again, Larry King.
This is the Jetsons, right?
Right.
Listen to this music.
Meet George Jetson. His boy Elroy.
Did they send us this, Hanna-Barbera? Did they? No? We got it ourselves? Little ingenuity, huh? Good move. All right, all through the night we'll be playing this stuff. We're going to have a lot of fun. Whittier, California for Joseph Barbera. Hello.
Hi, Larry and I, Mr. Barbera.
Hi.
Hello.
I am one of your biggest Rough and Ready, which I'm sad to say I don't see you on the air hardly at all anywhere because I would still be watching.
Well, we have it available, and we're going to try to program as soon as we can.
But the question I wanted to ask is, why do you think that that cartoons with humor that can relate to adults has disappeared mainly from cartoons, like, for example, Bugs Bunny during the 40s, and even up to 67 with George of the Jungle? It seems that cartoons that adults can relate to are, the humor's disappearing along with.
Yeah, why?
Well, it's because we have quite a lot of network supervision of the material. I have to be very frank about that. And they have a lot of input.
How about cartoons in movie theaters? Are they still there?
Not really. I don't know why.
That's sad, man.
It really is sad. It was such a lift, wasn't it?
That's all, folks. I mean, that was part of our life.
And a Tom and Jerry would come on, you'd hear a roar in the theater.
Oh, absolutely. Applause. Tom, we're lucky at Tom and Jerry.
That's right, yeah.
Chicago, Illinois. Hello.
What was Barney Rubble's job?
Well, that's funny.
Barney's job.
Everybody's been asking me that for the last 25 years or so. I'm going to be very honest. We've created a job for him, but he never really went to work. He would drop Fred off, and he would come back and pick him up. But that's
all he
facts, yeah. But now we've created a job for him in the new series.
But he had no job.
He never had a job, no.
Los Angeles, hello.
Hi, Mr. Barbera.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'd like to compliment you on the artwork of the Smurfs, especially the spectrum and detail of colors used in the background, which I find unusual in cartoons. I wonder if there's any special artist or project that you use to do this cartoon?
Well, I think the direction of the Smurfs, which maybe you don't know it or not, the Smurfs was out 22 years before we found it. It was out in Europe, and no one knew anything about it, and we deliberately tried to create a whole new atmosphere for that show. It was that important.
Thank you. To Hackensack, New Jersey. Hello.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Barbera.
Yes, sir.
I'm interested in a future career in animation and voice characterization, and I was wondering, I have two questions. How do you feel about the quality of cartoons of today? You feel they're like more stiff, not as smooth as the cartoons of the 40s?
Well, that again is money. You can't use as many drawings as they used to use, so you do get what we call limited animation. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
And it does do a job.
All right, thank you. Warren, Ohio. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Barbera.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to ask you a question about the old Fantastic Four cartoon show.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know who did the voice? I mean, do you know what happened to the two people who did the voices of Reed Richards and the Human Torch?
Heck, yes. Let me put it this way. I know the man that did it, that did the voice of Reed Richards, but I don't remember his name. He's an actor. He's passed away, and he was excellent.
Does Gary Owens do work for you, too?
Oh, yes. Gary's wonderful.
Rochester, hello.
Hello, I'm a young cartoonist, and I greatly admire your work, Mr. Barbera.
Thank you.
Are there many female cartoonists?
Oh, yes, quite a few of them.
All right, go ahead, dear.
I'm a male.
You sound like a female. Go ahead.
I'd like to know, in the past you've brought characters like Richie Rich and Popeye the Sailor from comic books to the screen, and right now you're bringing DC superheroes to the screen. I'd like to know if you'll be taking any more comic book characters and putting them to the television screen.
Not as of the moment. I think that's a phase that has gone a route, and we're going to have to wait, and they're going to come back again. Everything works in cycles.
Supposing I wanted to do an animation for one of your characters.
Yeah.
I would have to develop a voice for that character, and this voice wouldn't be a good voice.
No, it's a very good voice.
But it's not a voice for a character.
We would make a character to fit it.
Make a character to fit this voice?
Absolutely.
All right, I have a dream. You don't have to pay me. Give it a charity.
Okay.
I'd like to do a cartoon voice.
All right. Okay. Well, let me see. As we think of your voice and
maybe
the
like
resonance,
a sportscaster. Maybe like, or the Residents or something. Somebody. An animal.
But you mind being an animal?
I wouldn't mind being an animal.
Okay, then. We would work out a character that would have the basso and basso or whatever that's in your voice, and we would have some fun with it.
I would be honored. Joseph, this has been an honor.
It's been an honor for me to be here.
I salute you. I'm proud to be born in the same borough as you.
Oh, thank you.
We are fellow Brooklynites, Mr. Barbera and I, and he is president of Hanna-Barbera. Now, they have done a lot of wonderful things in this country, from Tom and Jerry through to all the things they do now, the Flintstones and Yogi Bear. And now, one of their proudest achievements is Hanna-Barbera's The Greatest Adventure It is available through direct home delivery by hotline purchase, and the phone number is 1-800-453-4908. 1-800-453-4908. The video cassettes are only $19.95 each. And that phone number again, I'll repeat it slowly and you might want to write it down, is 1-800-453-4908. This is the way it goes for